Hi Emily, Chris here, and I thought I would answer your email question in the form of a video so that I could show you how I set up that grade column. So your question was, how did I set up a total points column to appear in the My Grades area like this so that it's showing the student just, here it is, so that it's showing the student just the points they've earned based on just that which they've tried so far, or just what's based on the first unit. So let me show you how I did that. And here's a look at our grade center for the course that you're taking right now. Of course, here are student names, and then here's the columns for each gradable activity in the course. The first thing I did was I set up grading periods. And to set up grading periods, what you're really doing is setting up, it's kind of like setting up marking periods and sorting your grade columns into that which you think you'll accomplish in grading period 1, that which you'll accomplish in grading period 2, and so on. I have grading periods set up in my course by unit. So all of the columns that are related to unit 1 are in one grading period, and all of the columns associated with unit 2 are in another grading period. And you can see that in a course by going to the Manage button and then to Column Organization. And if you're using one of our courses, a BSN course, it already has grading periods and it already has each unit's work sorted into unit grading periods, just like this. So in my course, all of the grade columns that I had anything to do with Unit 1, I dragged into this Unit 1 grading period folder. Unit 2's columns I dragged into the grading period for Unit 2, and so on. Now, at the end of each grading period, I have added a column, a calculating column, called Total Points Earned, and that will show the students how many points they have just on these activities, just on whatever's in that grading period. And I have one of those at the bottom of each grading period. All right, so let's take a look at how I did that. Now you can see the structure and the organization. Let's see how. First, you would set up your grading periods. So you do that from the Manage button, and you'll see grading periods as one of the options. From there, if there already are grading periods in the class, you'll see them listed, and you can edit them if you would like to change the name of them. Or you can create a new grading period. When you create a new grading period, all you really have to do is give it a name. There will be other options, but you can skip the other options for now. Just give it a name and click Submit. And we'll go back to the Grade Center. So we have grading periods set up. Now we need to set up that column that will show us a total based on just one particular grading period. And that's a calculated column. So you would put your mouse on Create Calculated Column, and then you would use the Total Column option because we're setting up a total points column. And you would give that column a name. So for example, I called mine Unit 1 Total Points Earned. That's just what I chose to call it. And that is asterisked, so I know that's a required entry I have to fill in. I'm going to skip past some of this other here and come down to this number 3 area. Number 3 is asking, what do I want to include in this column? What do I want this column to be based on? And by default, it's going to show me a score based on all my columns. But we don't really want that if we're setting up a total points column just for one particular grading period. Instead, we would want the second option, which is all grade columns in a grading period, and then you pick the grading period. So if I'm setting up my Unit 1 Total Points Earned, then in the Select Columns area, I'm going to say base it only on all columns that are in the Unit 1 grading period. And that way it's going to ignore all the rest. Running total is where you decide, do you want this total to be based only on what the student has attempted in Unit 1 so far, Or do you want it to be based on even those assignments that the student has not yet made an attempt on? So in my course, I have it set as a running total, which means that it's only going to be based on that which you've tried. So if you haven't gotten to one of the lessons yet, then your score is not going to be, for that lesson, is not going to become a part of the points possible. So you can make that option either yes or no, and it describes for you in case you forget how that works out. And then in the options area, do you want this column included in Grade Center calculations? Probably you don't, because you're probably going to have an overall total column that's doing all the calculating for all the columns in your course. And that overall column will already be calculating all your scores. It doesn't need to figure this score in as though it's an assignment. So I would say no for this option. And then you can decide if you want this to be visible to your students. I think it's helpful if it is visible. And then you would click Submit. Now I already have one of these columns, so I'm not actually going to click Submit. I'm just going to cancel. So what we've done so far is you've set up grading periods. You have created a Unit 1 total column based just on Unit 1. Now you need to kind of organize your columns into the proper grading period. So you would use this Manage button, go to Column Organization, and that takes you into that view where you can sort and drag and move your columns around. And these columns are movable by grabbing the crosshairs, and you can drag them up or down. Or if you want to move a whole bunch at once, you can check mark the ones that you want to move and organize, and use one of those buttons at the top to change to a different grading period. So right now the ones I checked are in my Unit 1 grading period. If I wanted to bump them to Unit 2 grading period, I could do that. Or if I hadn't yet put them in a grading period, I could check mark them and say, yeah, put them in Unit 1. Now you're also going to want to make sure that that total points column that you just created is in the right grading period. It's showing up in the Unit 1 grading period. And it will look like it's worth 0 possible points. But once the student starts participating, it will actually be based on that which they've completed. So once you've organized your columns in this way, click Submit if you've made changes. And that should give your students a total points earned column at the end of each unit, or at the end of each marking period, or each week even if you wanted. You can have as many calculating columns as you want. So hopefully that helps. In my email to you, I'll include a couple of links to tutorials that might help too. So good luck. Let me know if you have any other questions.